Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Where I come from, I'm responsible to put energy. Do you need some energy? Okay, well, why don't we just stand up? Those who can, please, politely. Yes, let's stretch. Let's do the stretch. And breathe in as you stretch up. Represent the Shack Dwellers International. I think I was trying to listen at least one word in relation to shacks, slums in the room. I haven't heard, apart from the conversation we had with ETA. Because of the various projects that we undertake, we support the urban dwellers to collect their own information. So we've done citywide profile of identifying issues, prioritizing risks, vulnerabilities, but also opportunities. Just the assets that are also within the city that can be managed by the city dwellers. We are in 418 settlements where we've done a little bit of interventions. The federation movement itself has over 28,000 members. And this, again, we said they are collectives. They are saving groups. We like using the word saving. It's a model that has been influenced a lot from India, that energized women to come together, put their own resources to address household challenges. These resources enable these groups to pull together, sometimes very innovatively to create their own village banks. I think those who have the history of village banks understand where it came from, the history of the Grameen banks and the rest, which were popularized. And a story I like telling about our saving groups model in Kenya is we had one group in the market, just along this road, Ngong Road, a market called Toy Market. It's one of the market that is known here. If you want to do shopping, please go Toy Market. I'm not sure about this time when we are morning, but you're welcome. And in Toy Market, we had 3,000 members doing daily savings. Daily savings. Someone, an individual, will go door to door, stall to stall, just collecting money. And when we started, we said, don't stress. How much can you save per day? It starts with where someone is willing to say what they can put. They are not coerced. How much are you willing? And I remember we would start groups with even a shilling, Kenya shilling. Those groups today are able to save even 200 shillings per day, because that capacity has evolved and it has grown. So in Toy Market, they would save, and I remember they would say the nearest bank that time would be in CBD in town, and they would go to town. And with time, because of the evolution also within the banks, and I'm happy to see KCB involved in this, some banks were able to come close to the market because of the huge capital flow that was coming. They were noticing, hey, these people are really bringing money, and how are they organizing this? So that's just one of the examples that the capacity that these groups bring. We have seen evolution of our city from the work the slum dwellers have been doing and the movement where individuals from shacks, a shack looks like that. When we say shack dwellers, we mean people who start their lives there. They experience numerous challenges like fires, but eventually end up doing marvelous projects. These are projects that one of the products that have come out of collective savings, where communities have put their own money and they've put their own houses. We are seeing even today one of the best model we are seeing in Nakuru, here in Nairobi, where the community have, through their savings, have gone, and many of them are renters. They just decided that rent is a lot of money. Why don't we pull together our resources? They look for the cheapest land within the metropolitan area, buy the land, and convert that, and they construct their own houses. a lot of the skills are from the community members themselves. We are saying slum dwellers are builders. These are the fundis you find here. They're the people cleaning around. So they have these skills, and that reduces a lot of the resources that goes outside the settlement. So they utilize what is locally within. They're able to purchase materials, at a wholesale. Some of them are clever, have gone to some of these sites and have put some quarry sites to extract stones for building, to reduce their costs of construction. So this innovation is there, and it's building, and it's putting a lot of transformation within the informal settlements. So why does it matter to think about community-led and community financing, especially to the urban dwellers? It's the issue of inclusivity. A city that will exclude others creates chaos, creates a crisis. And this, there is evidence all over. If we don't balance equity, we don't create an inclusive city, and we are told in 2025, in 2050, we're in 2025, the academy in the room, the projections of our cities is that they will double. So we'll have more urban people in the cities. But our estimate is that we'll have more urban poor people in the cities, as opposed to that. So what is this urbanization and what is this growth that we anticipate? So unless we all come in, create a little bit of space to also support this group, then that imbalance will have a problem. But also, there is also energy and capacity from the communities. They bring in innovation, they bring in ownership, they make the city thrive, and the economy will therefore thrive when everybody is happy within the city. And this is just one invitation was done by a group in Nakuru here. They said, we are collecting a lot of waste. They've gone to the landfill. We are putting this waste together. Why don't we do homes with them? So the homeowners, maybe Zima, there's an innovation here for you to consider. So they're thinking, hey, why don't we do this and then plaster the house? We'll know what is inside. So you'll be amazed by the innovation that is also evolving in some of these spaces. I don't want to talk a lot about that. I know Kesia knows about the pipeline. And some of the amazing thing, again, about that space, and we like talking about this is because it's next to Mukuru. Mukuru informal settlements. So when anyone who make it from the informal settlement, their first space to go to, will be pipeline. That's the immediate neighborhood, before they consider themselves to look for a better home. So pipeline, there's a lot of stories, and I'm sure I'll invite you to just get interested with it. But here, the most important is how the neighborhood organization itself utilize their own resources even to do their own infrastructure, to develop their own infrastructure for this space, but create space that is accommodative. It has many stories, like I said. There are those who will say chaos. There are those who will see life and accommodation of the city there. It depends on who looks at it. So how does it work with our savings? We've seen very simplified systems developed through trust by community members. So a collective will put their resources. They will start with a small group of 10 to 15 people, register it. In Kenya now, you're required to register in the form of an association. So they will register it as a self-help group, because it's the easiest form of registration. Now companies are being encouraged, groups are encouraged to register as companies, but they will register anyway. So they are recognized. They will open a bank account, and all the savings will go there. Initially, they will have a collector who will do the physical collection and take the money to the bank, and every week they meet, accountability happens. Every week, whoever collects must present the accounts, must show the books of where the money has come from, who deposited. Then this money, when they have an initiative, SDI and the support NGOs then has enabled them to create a pool, a fund. And in this fund, so the idea is they have the autonomy to keep their money in whichever bank they choose, but at the project level, they can draw the deposit required to the fund so that then they get the support that they need. That system has worked. It has created trust because groups can trace their money, you know. They can say we only gave out 20% of the money that is needed, yeah, for development or for support. Sometimes the group will give 10% and an individual will be required to raise 10%. It is for livelihoods or for housing, for many reasons. Recently, we were running some grants supporting groups, almost $1 million, small micro grants. We were surprised by the reasons that the groups, the purpose for the money, you know, that the groups applied. Many of them were to address issues of drainage, issues of, you know, fixing a sanitation block. You can see how mindful the community becomes even with the resources that comes in form of grants, that they don't waste in the sense of saying someone has eaten money. You know, the way we say people eat money, yeah? They are very mindful. So these collectives, sometimes we provide guarantees, and this way we also seek a lot of support, because the demand, like someone asked, the demand is huge. We've seen with very few projects, which I'll give an example of few. One example of something that was magical to us was in 2007, when a serving group came to the office and said a piece of land in Mukuru, 23 acres, was on sale. And this bank was trying to repossess this asset because the owner was unable to pay. And we couldn't imagine that that owner would think the informal settlement would rescue that situation. And so guys came to the office, it was around December, and said, hey, an investor around us wants to sell their property. Can you help us buy it? And we said, how much is it? They said 81 million. We said, even in the NGO, we don't have that much to run projects. Where do you get? But then we didn't want to diminish that dream. We said, okay, you think you want to buy? Yes. Why don't you go back and mobilize your members and come back and we see how much we can be able to put together. And we challenged them. Go mobilize at least 500 members and start your savings. Yeah? Reinforce your group. 3 months later, they came back with 3 million Kenya shillings already in the bank. They had already reached that number target of 500, and we challenged them again and we said, let's calculate again, go to 2,200 members. The group eventually, to cut the story short, we were able to secure that land for that group. They were able to save, and they were able to repay the loan that was taken and that was provided to allow them. So all I'm trying to say is to demonstrate, yeah, the capacity, thank you, the capacity that is there within the informal settlement. So when you hear shack dwellers, think opportunity, think an investment opportunity that you can come in. So all the ideas, I don't think we can be able to convince you on how to do it. You already have that. All we need to give you is confidence that this space is also investable. If there's a word like that, come in and let's do that. And I'm very happy Center for Affordable Housing has been coming in for us to discuss and explore how we scale up this. And that's my appeal, and thank you so much for your time.
Bwana Joe, mimi iko mama mzee in the housing industry.
Asante sana, mama.
I first came to Nairobi in 1984 to start this organization. And all I want to say is you are speaking the truth, Bwana Mzee. It worries me very much when I hear PSs and other people say, we must eradicate the slums. We must eliminate the slums. I hear all over Africa and elsewhere in the world, we must eliminate the slums. The slums are everywhere in the world. They are the rural people and the poor people's entry into the city. And they are a very, very important component of urban life. And the other thing I was delighted to hear you say is the slum dweller has built his or her own shelter. And that is an investment. Even taking that piece of corrugated iron or that piece of plastic, buying that piece of corrugated iron is an investment, and we must not ignore it. That is part of blending investment into shelter and housing, is the people's own sweat equity and their own small, small, small purchases into providing their own housing. I just want to reinforce those 2 points that you have made. Bravo, Bwana Mzee.
Asante. Asante sana.
Shall we take one more?
Please, Etta.
Right
Or
behind you.
Beverly.
Okay.
Thank you. We've been talking for a very long time because we are Africa's, well, maybe Kenya's first privately owned non-profit affordable housing developer, and our goal is to use scale to enable affordability. And I think the one thing we discussed is how do we build in cross-subsidy in these developments so that private developers can then say maybe 10% of the stock can then be held in trust and owned by communities such as yours. How is the gap in informality? Because the biggest gap is projects like ours gentrify, land prices gentrify, and then people are displaced. So how do we create communities that preserve affordability in the long run? Because what happens is that the owners change hands. Real estate is about transactions. So how do we bridge this gap with the wonderful work that you're demonstrating that it's bankable, effective demand, but how do we then sort of say, okay, private developers putting stock out in 10, 15 years, how do we not displace people who need the housing close to employment centers away from where they need it? So yes, how are you working on that? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Etta. And Sharon, yeah. Asante sana. Asante. Yes, I totally agree with you. The recognition, and for us, it has always been to demonstrate the capacity, the capability. The approach is capability approach, as opposed to seeing problems from that side. And we've seen groups putting their own resources. For us, what pains me a lot is when community uses their own resources to address challenges that are not their own. You know, issues of even climate change, you know? Yeah, so it becomes a bit, so that's a resource that can be tapped. The other area is that we've seen what we call poverty penalty. The poor being punished to pay more for services that ordinary people then procure at a cheaper price. The price of water in the informal settlement is a lot of money. That's money, if saved, will go to housing. The food supply, so people exploit these opportunities. And if there's a collective that minds and puts the right policies, we'll be able to save a bit of that. So there is resource. And we've seen groups demonstrate that. By land, the sprawl of the city has been enabled by these saving groups. The city has spread, the Ruirus, the Ruais, you know, have spread out of these groups that come together to put their resources. So, but we also come with an open arm, especially welcoming your ideas of investments. We did this from securing land. We have secured most of the land. Groups have understood how to get into business, but we don't know how to do most of this. You've been there. We are coming in so that we co-create some of these solutions. Thank you. Asante sana. Thank you.